questions, just please go ahead and speak up, unmute yourself, speak up, ask your question, and then we will, and then from there, we will get back, and be sure to remute yourself. Classroom people inside here, please use a microphone, otherwise they can't hear you on the recording or out there in the internet world. So go ahead.
Greg, I'm having trouble hearing. I don't know if it's my end or your end.
I forgot to turn my microphone on. Does that help?
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you for bringing that up, not letting me prattle on for a while. So inside Moxie, going to present, because that's where the presentations are. That's where Cloud CMA lives, if you will. We have the presentations I've done in the past. I have deleted some of them. I have brokerage presentations. I've not built a lot, but we're going to go right into new because I've got a client that wants to know what his house is worth. I click on new, and these are the 4 presentation types I can choose. A buyer presentation. I want to tell them about why I should be a buyer agent. A seller presentation. What's my house worth? A buyer tour. So I'm going to go show you houses, and I'm going to create a booklet for you to follow around. There's other programs that do that. And a non-listing presentation where you can just say, let me tell you about our services. Let me tell you about recruiting. Let me tell you about whatever you want to make up a presentation on. But most of the time, you're going to use it for a seller presentation. Click the radio button, click continue, and you have 2 choices of brokerage templates. If you do not select brokerage templates, you can look at your own, or you can look at the Better Homes and Gardens, which is a very limited version. The brokerage templates are the ones where I went in and created a showing page and about us here in town, things like that that are more local. And we have 2 in there, the distinct home seller, which changes the colors and the higher dollar homes and so on, and the normal default seller, which is what we're going to do today. And continue. Now, my screen gives me a choice of which office because I'm registered in both offices. But who are you presenting this for? Today, I'm going to change off of musicians and go for authors. So Agatha Christie wants to sell her house in town. Now, why some of you may not know that, has anybody ever heard the romance novel of novelist Rebecca Brandywine? Oh, she was very popular several years ago. I went to school with her, and she actually has a house in town, but that's a whole different story. So I push create new and continue, and it takes just a minute, but then this circle pops up, and it's going to take me to this. Let's start your CMA. This house was sold in 2019. And as far as Moxie goes, it will go back to houses that were sold from about 2016, 17 forward. So if you have somebody that's been in a house relatively short time, you can look up the MLS number and it will populate all that for you. If it was prior to that, type your address in and then fill out all of this information, because Moxie is going to take this and find very comparable houses for you on the map. But I'm going to put the MLS number so I don't have to fill it in. And that number is 556861. And when I copy it over, it's going to pull in from the MLS the last picture that was in there, all the information, map of the property, the areas, and various other things in here that help me figure out what this house has in it. And then Moxie's going to go and look for comparable properties. So when I come back to the When I say, yep, that's all correct and so on, I'm going to push continue. Now, notice it also says what it sold for the last time and how long it was on the market. It brings that in for you. So Moxie's now going out to look to find out every comparable house it believes it can find. And obviously this is and I picked this house on purpose. They only came up with one property. And all I have to do to pick that property is click on it and it's now in my comparable. But every one of you in here knows that's not very good. I need more than one property, right? Does anybody think they only ought to have one comparable? Good. So there's several things I can do now to get away from the automatic selection and start expanding my horizons. So first off, you can see on the map, this is my property. This is the property they're picking, and the obvious difference is this one is in kind of an older neighborhood and this one's on water. So what I'm going to do now is change my filters. And when I click on this, there are things that I can add, delete, change that Moxie is automatically picking on. It said sold in the last 6 months. Maybe I want to go, does anybody go a year anymore? Or is it pretty much 6?
No, I go back a year. Because
Okay. Microphone.
I do go back a year because prices have skyrocketed and have been reflected in the last 12 months,
Okay.
in my opinion. So if I don't find enough comps within 6 months, I'll go back 12.
Okay, so I can go back 12 months and apply. I'm going to find something just a minute. And again, we don't find much more. And that's because this house has some rather strange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the filters. Now, when you click on that little arrow next to reset filters, you'll see two things. Defaults, which pretty much erases all of the filters, and back to the subject property values. So they're looking at the subject property, going within ranges and finding things, but I'm not finding enough. So I'm going to go to defaults, which is nothing. And then look at all the houses I have popped up there. Well, obviously, I want to do a little more than just everything. And I happen to know this house is about 3,800 square feet. So one of the things I'm going to change is the square footage. I'm going to go 2,800 to 4,500 because that's going to be kind of in a range that I could at least think the dollar per square foot is starting to make sense to me. I can put a lot size in if I want. This one's about 1/4 of an acre. So I'm going to go 1/4 to 1/2 just to see what I have. I could put the year built in. Currently, it says waterfront any. Now that house I know is on the water. So just to see what's going to happen, I'm going to click on that and apply. And I still don't have a lot of houses. Well, there's a few up there I can choose from. So what I'm going to start doing is looking at the houses that I want to add. Now, obviously, I'm going through a little bit quick on this. I could start slowing down a little bit and say, well, that price range, no, I know we're nowhere near the 700, even if it's on water. So let's take those out. And those could be newer. I could decide I want to look at Anna and see what it looks like and click on details. And it's going to bring up all the photos and all the details from the MLS. Sandra's shaking her head.
No, I'm trying.
Oh.
I'm trying to do what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
Listing presentation, I've got to go to at noon, so I'm a little bit behind.
Okay. And I can look at the pictures. I can look at the year built, the number of bedrooms, bath, and so on. I can decide if this is too new for me or not. But the square footage is pretty comparable and so on. So I'm going to keep this. Now, when I look at the details, I can include the listing or I can disclude it right from that listing. So the point is, once you start looking on a map and saying, Well, there's some things here that I do want to include because this one's on a lake. I want to click on that. It brings it up. I click again and it brings up that detail page. So pretty rapidly, I can start going through and looking at the properties that I want to, that I think will work, built in 99 on and so on. Well, I'm going to include this one. Now, obviously, and I'm not trying to pick on Lance at all, but I know how detail oriented he is. And he would rather see them on a spreadsheet in the MLS, and I get that. But sometimes you might say, maybe I'd rather see them on the map. Maybe I'd rather pull up the pictures rapidly, and all the information is really there. So why not do it that way? It's just another option. It is not something you have to do. So I'm going to pull up this one because it's also on the lake. I want to include it, include the listing. It's quite a bit newer, but I can account for that on the back end. And so I've got the properties that I now want included. And I can say, okay, I found everything I want on my CMA. And I push continue. Now, when I get over here, I could come in and say, ooh, I didn't find enough. I want more. Or I can say, if I want more, then I go back to the search button and I can pull up more. For this purpose, I'm just going to use these and be done with it. We've got 4 listings. I can scan through these and kind of get an idea. Well, all of these have 5 bedrooms. My target has 6 bedrooms. So some of these might be older. Some of these might be newer. Some of these might have better interior. And honestly, you guys know when you're doing a CMA, I pull up the listing of 7 years ago. It's not going to tell me much about the house today. It could have been painted. It could have solid surface in it. The carpet could be wrecked now. You don't know these things, but you don't know those when doing a regular CMA anyway. So this is just kind of giving me the, let's go from here. It figures $1 per square foot for me. I like those. If I want to add adjustments in here, if I say for sure, well, I know this house, let's see, I know this house sold at $58, but that's my target. The rest of them, the square footage is coming up about the same. I could say this one's in a neighborhood that's different or it's got more acreage and add an adjustment for that one house if I want to. Now I have to figure out what I'm going to do and say, because this is a larger lot, I'm going to minus or positive the money X number of dollars. I'm not going to do that today, but you could. I want you to know that.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So when you're doing the adjustment then, so say that bottom one on Ridgeport, say it's, got an extra garage bay versus
Okay.
your subject. So then typically I would, when I was doing my hand CMA, I would subtract the value for that. So is that how you do it the same way?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Let's say minus $5,000. Oops, what happened? I pushed a bad button. So I opened them. So I'm going to explain something I just did here.
Oh, no, I have my spreadsheet.
I have to get out of that. So I pushed a bad button and you would think, oh no, I just lost everything. But the fact is it's still here. It saves it as you're going. So I click on the pencil again. I'm back in here. I want to get up to the listings because that's where we were. And I want to subtract $5,000 from there. So I'm going to put that in. Extra, and I'm not going to hit a button badly this time. My keyboard's not communicating well. And I put a minus sign and 5,123.00. And so I can save and add another because, again, I'm not picking on Lance. I know the detail he does. He might have 10 adjustments on one house. You could do that. I know Lance would prefer to do that on a spreadsheet. That's cool. I'm showing you that there are other things that you can also do if you're lesser detailed or you like it all your work product in one place. So I've now done that. I've made the adjustment and I'm going to continue.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
I just did this. I go further than Lance. I have my own spreadsheet that I put everything into and
Right.
some. And so I did that for the house I'm getting ready to list. And then I just went in here and I didn't make any adjustments. And this only came up about $6,000 more than what it did after I did all my, and that was out without making any adjustments.
So what I'm saying is there is not a really good list of what do I adjust for. A lot of it's a by gosh, by golly, because you have to get a feel for the market. You have to get a feel for what's going on. You have to know prices because they're changing all the time. My son just got an estimate for his deck because his deck was built in the early 2000s and it's elevated. They've changed all of the building code. They have to redo all the concrete underneath the deck in order to build it. So whereas 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, I could say, you know, if you spent $10,000 to $15,000 on a deck, you're spending a lot. His is over 40. It's that much to add the new concrete, the wood prices and so on. And somebody like Sherry would have a clue of that because of working with new homes. We think we know, but a $40,000 versus 15 is a big swing. So if I can get somewhere in that $6,000 range and then tell people to get estimates if they need them, I'm comfortable. Some people won't be, but thank you for that input. But now that we have gone through here, I could do, I'm going to come up with what I believe is a market value range. When I'm doing a CMA, I would never, ever do one where I list a price, number one. Number two, until I see the home, I may not even know what it's worth. So I like price ranges and qualify that with if it's in good shape. So based on square footage alone and our adjustment, they're telling me this house could sell for $578 now. Sounds still high to me, but I know the kind of shape that house was in back in 2017 and so on. So what one would do is come in here and put in, for me, I'm going to put in this exact price. So I'm no longer figuring out what I think it's worth, but rather what the program came up with. And then I'm going to create a range. And when I create a range, it's going to say, well, the minimum and maximum, I could type in a number, or I could say 6% plus or minus, calculate, and it's going to tell me that 6% would give me a range 543 to 613. And I know where the middle is because I typed it in there. I'm going to apply this. Now, some of you say 6%'s too much. I get that. I also know how much houses are selling for above list price right now. You come up with the percentage that you feel comfortable. Personally, I think a 3% would probably be more of a normal, but I also know that depending on what the shape of the house, it could be a lot. And you can put a remark down here. If the home is in excellent condition. Okay. I go to the next page. And that brings me to, let me go back one. I've included in here an estimated net proceeds. I do not recommend you use it, but I left it in here in case your handwriting's like mine and you don't want to fill one out and authenticate or do it by hand. So you can make a net proceeds out of this, but nothing's auto-filled in here. And so I don't see any reason to. I would use the other one. But I left it anyway, and I'll show you how to fix that. So then we go to pages. Basically, we've done all the work to do a CMA, and we've been in here, what, 20 minutes? And we probably come up with a very rough value. Some may want more specific, some less. But as Catherine pointed out, hers came in very close. And then we've got pages to choose from. You get to preview the pages over here. Well, I personally don't like that picture at all. And second, I'm not sure that I want an old MLS picture in here. So what I'm going to do is remove that page altogether by clicking the little X over there. And now the next page that comes up is the company CMA profile. I would recommend at least once you look at these pages because it displays them very nicely here. I like the agent profile, but all of that is pulled right out of the MLS. You may not want all that, or not out of the MLS, out of Dash.
Also on that cover page, you can just take the picture out too, and it'll just be a green page with their name on it.
You can also take another picture and insert it. I have page because I like page. Some of you may say, I don't care for that in my. So the point is you can go through these, edit, pull out pages, get pages that you like to be in here all the time. So like, I think the net proceeds, I'm going to take out because I never want it in there. I would look at the pages to understand how our photography works, the warranty. You may say, harness the power. Well, harness the power, I kind of like that because it puts stats. Some of you may say that's too much about BHG and so on. And look at the pages. And then when you're done with, this is what I want my standard to be, you click on Save as Template. You want it to be your seller and your title. Greg's Standard. And you never have to go through and pick out the pages again. You now have a template that you like. Let's say you're going through this. We're going to view this in a moment. Let's say you're going through this and you say, you know what? I have an extra service where I will come over and suck out your septic tank for free if you will list with me. And you want to add a page for yourself. Now, in the old ones, there's only a couple of ways you could do it. You could submit a page in the back and try to get it in input. You could give me a page and I could create it, or you could create it on your computer using whatever format you wanted, and you could be done with it and then print it out every time you want it. But here you have the choice to add a page. And when you add a page, you can either look in the library to find what's already been created in there that is not in this presentation, or you can create from scratch, which is where I'm going to go. Do you want to upload a PDF that you already have? Works very nicely. Or do you want to build a page because you've never built a I'll suck your septic tank out for free page? So you click on build a page and it comes up and says, we have a web view and a print view, because when this program builds a CMA, it does both at the same time. You don't have to go back and choose another one. I kind of like building a web view. And then when you're done, it will say, do you want to copy it over to the print view? And I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. You can go backwards the other way. If you have a PDF that you upload that's 8.5 by 11 and you upload it, it will say, do you want to build a web view off of this? And you say, sure, that's what I want to do. And it builds it for you. So I'm going to go here and click on that one and create. And now it's a fairly simple modified WYSIWYG editor. WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. I can put text in this box. I can put an image in. Well, I don't want to put the septic tank up there. I want my septic tank over here. I can put a video in there because this works really good online. Hi, this is Greg Fox, and I want you to know I love to play with sewage. Please let me list your house so I can suck it out for you. And there are more choices. If you want to put text in there, you simply click on it and start typing, and a text editor shows up. Do you want to underline it? Do you want it formatted? Do you want to make it bigger, and so on? So let's go septic tank special. I didn't spell tank right. Yeah. Special. And I'm not going to build the whole page for you right now because I think you guys can figure it out. I can choose the color I want it to be. I want it to be black. Brown. All right, we'll go with brown. I'm good with that. Here we go. There. So I got to highlight it then and go back to my baby poop brown. There we go. And so let's say I want it bigger. Well, I think that's right here. Small. So it's not like you have to know a lot about this stuff. They make the selections fairly easy. Then if I wanted to put a picture over here, I'm going to say, well, I want to upload a picture. And I can either go to the image library or from the web. Or I think I can add one. See, I added by, that's not it. Oh, there it is, upload. And let's see if we got any pictures on the desktop right now. There we go, a thumbnail. And we're going to add that picture. And now Sandra's got a septic tank special. Thank you, Sandra. And so I'm going to say I'm done with this because I just want to be done. But I also have to create a print portrait size. And it says save some time, copy from the web version. I just copy it over and there it is. And now I save it. I got to name it septic special. Why is it not typing? Probably because, there we go. Batteries are getting weak. Special. And I can say it's only being saved to my pages. However, if Lance wanted to create Sandra's septic special and then share it with the rest of the company, you'll notice that there's a button here that says enable this. All other users will edit their own copied version and so on. So not only can you create a page, but if you think it's useful for others, you can share it with them. Save.
Cool.
So now this is saved. And I'm going to close this. And there's my septic special. And I don't know where it's at in here, right there in the middle. And I can move it down below syndication or wherever I want. The other thing I hadn't shown you is if you don't like where pages are located, maybe you want staging above septic tank. Just pick it up and drag it. Again, if you make a special like we just did and you add pages, be sure that you save that template. And let's see, my templates. I probably didn't save that. Oh, there it is, Greg's standard. Template has errors, name has already been taken. Oh, why didn't I see it down there? Greg's standard, there it is, it hadn't fully populated. Okay. And so on.
You have to clear out that Greg's speaking up.
Yeah, I think you're right. And
Or rename it Greg.
all custom title, Greg standard. There we go. So hold on. Yeah, I'm about to override it and I'm cool. So my point is with Cloud CMA, it was really hard to create custom pages. This has some formatting things that come in really fast and become something that you can make your presentation your own special presentation. And then when you're all done, and it's saved already, I want to view it to kind of show you the guys the two ways you can share it. On view, it says, do you want the print view or the web view? The print view is a lot like the old Cloud CMA. It would make a PDF. It's a full size 8.5 by 11, and it looks nice, but I'm not going to show it to you because you know how to print paper already, right? I would like to go through real quick the web view. So I showed this to techie people like our IT guy. They don't want a book. They want it like this. They want it so that it's slick. They can scroll through it quickly. They don't have to do a lot. There are people that are going to want only a book. There are people that are going to want both. Use one tool to make both for them. So we've got this that can easily be emailed. There's my CMA cover. It's got my name at the top. It'll have your name if you're doing it. I can go to full screen if I want. There's the About Me page. Again, all that pulled from the BHG stuff. Here's page. Tells them our core values. Property summary, and it's got the picture from the MLS, when it was built, and so on. And if your client really doesn't want to scroll through the pages one by one, there's an index over here where they can just click on whatever page they want to jump to. You can also use the arrow down button. So one of the things I like about this is if something changes and goes to sold, it will change up here. If I'm looking at these comparables, I can see them on the map. I can scroll in on, or I can zoom in on, oh, I went to the wrong page. I can zoom in on the map. And I can say, man, I really want to know about that one. Highlights it there. I click on it. I get all the details and the pictures and all the other things. I can look at all the pictures. And it looks like they have one. Isn't that nice? And this little box is in my way. When I close that, I'm back to all of my properties. Keep going down. It's got the listing overview, again, to kind of look at things. The side-by-side comparison of all the properties, and scrolling through all of the fields lined up. So you're looking at who has 6 bedrooms, who has 5, who's got 4 bathrooms and 3, when they were built, the size they are, the acreage they have. This is a nice little comparison of things, which schools they were. This is more of a status comparison, sold versus, I think that's active. Home average prices. Days on market. And how long are they sold or not? Why is this one out at 152 days? Price versus size.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, it's,
Inside joke. Okay. Back to that value adjustment we came up with based on square footage, what the others were selling for, and what they came up with based on that. Average sell price of the sold comparables. And it comes down to more of what I call fluff. What's our strategy? Well, we've got our Exposio photography. We've got the Better Homes and Gardens warranty plan. Harness the power of BHG compared to, Keller Williams, which nobody's heard of. Except for our town. Negotiating and closing, part of the reason you want an agent is because we need to help you get to closing and negotiating the contracts you get. How we do the social media stuff. The Text BHGRE program. Syndication, where all we send them out to. Talks a little bit about staging, and that's right from, you know, things from Better Homes and Gardens. There's our septic special. You're welcome, Sandra. I'm going to leave that in there for a long time. Here's the page I built about the showing service and what phone numbers and what they can expect. Curb appeal, things that matter when they're pulling up to the house, and so on. I'm not going to go through all these pages, it looks like, but there's a last page in here. Whenever you guys are doing a CMA, I used to find that a lot of people forgot to say, hey, can we get your house on the market? Are you ready to list it? Do you want to sign the papers today? So that's why I put that in there to remind you, let's get it on the market. Just don't leave it with, I hope you like my presentation. Call me when you're ready. Okay. Sandra had a question?
Yes, I have a request.
Yes.
Because I'm lazy and I'm not very technological. So there's so much in here. So, which is great if you're just going to do a one-step listing presentation. But could we take out could you do a secondary one for the fluff? So it's like a pre-list. So if you're coming out and visiting with the client, doing a walkthrough, and then you're going to go back and do numbers.
Yes, but it's not as easy for me to do that for the entire company as you think. It's probably going to be one of those where you're going to have to save your own template. Now, I'll take a look and see if I can do that and remove all of the listing information and everything so that it's just got the fluff, and name it BHGRE step 1 pre-list BHGRE.
It would be nice to have one that way and then have another one like for step 2 where it would just be all
So,
the meat and potatoes of the houses, and then maybe one with all of it.
so if I do that and it takes me 10 minutes, then you're going to start calling me a liar, right? That it
No, I'll buy you lunch or something. 'Cause it's easier for you to do it.
it might take me a couple hours to get that put together and disseminated to
I mean,
everybody.
I don't know if anybody else would have a need for that. It's just there's so much because I did.
Oh,
one
I
yes-
agree.
I did one yesterday and I took it out and it was like 70 pages because I used several listings.
Yeah.
You know.
Can we share
Yeah.
templates with each other?
It's a little harder to share templates.
Okay.
It has to do with how the program's built. But let me work on it and see if I can put something together. There was a question online.
Yes, Greg, can't you just go in there and print off the pages you want?
Well, absolutely. But they're asking me if I could set it up as a template. So,
Right.
but yes, you could also just print if you were always doing print. Some people might want to do the pre-list as an email and then carry a
Mhm.
paper out with the actual listings in them.
Gotcha.
So I'll see if I can work on that. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you guys today, that to wrap it back up, I will never fault anybody for going to the MLS to get information. It's a good tool, but it is also sometimes not the easiest tool to work. It's a little clunky and finding all the right check boxes can be difficult. So my thought is there's more than one way to skin a cat. And if this way works for you and you're happy with it, then use it this way. You can always go to the MLS, get all the numbers that you want and put them right in here and not let the program select for you. It will copy and paste the numbers pretty easily. Me, I don't like doing the same work twice. So if I can let the programs use it and it's getting to where I want to be, I'm good with that.
If I can interject, I was just working on one before I came down here, and it's an old house in Benton, but I had already handpicked my comps, but I just went in and did the location, and it actually pulled one that I'm like, oh, even though that house is newer, it's comparable shape. So it actually showed me another one, and I did expand my search to Towanda. So then I went in and had hand edited that one after the fact. So it's pretty accurate, actually.
I think, especially with the coming of us getting rid of zones, a lot of people were so dependent on zones, And they wouldn't get outside that comfort zone of this house is in this zone. I'm not looking any further. I think appraisers will often go, I'm going to look more in a radius than I am just in, what's if a zone's across the street. And then when you're looking for difficult properties, let's say something that is on a lake versus something that's not, or a property with some acreage out in the country, it can be difficult looking for them. So it's not a perfect science. It really isn't. But for me, this was pretty easy, and I was able to come up with some good numbers on a difficult home quickly. So that's my 2 bits. Any other questions or comments? Then I'm going to stop the recording. Find a button, stop